I faintly remember what I read in the book. I was falling asleep. I was so tired when I was reading. I was trying to make myself. He's got relationships. Right there.
Building right
there.
Yeah. Building the blocks.
John Maxwell's little 101 series.
It's the handbook, man.
So you are who you are is who you attract. Okay, who you are is who you attract. So think about in your life the people around you, the people that you feel closest to, the people that are drawn to you, the people that connect with you. Do you see similarities between their likes and dislikes and your likes and dislikes? Do you see some similarities in that attraction? You know, they say opposites attract, but that's not necessarily all the time. So there's usually always some similarity.
But in magnetism, it does have to be opposite.
It can't be pushing together, right? That's true. That's true.
Good point. Write that down, Julie, 1 point. That's a good point.
She is. She is one up.
This will be like, yes, the magnet one, this is not, it won't work. But that's true though, in that.
So here's one thing I think, like, so I take, like, Robert here is a good example. Like, there are things about me and Robert that some people would, there's things about Robert that absolutely drive some people crazy.
Really?
And they just can't hang with him. But what's funny is those exact same things are so about me, and that's why we get along.
And me.
Because, well, there you go. Now, well, you drive people crazy for different reasons.
Hey man, Pastor.
But yeah, like when it comes to some, not political discussion, but some deeper theological discussion, deeper church discussion, church history a little. You know, when you get into using terminology like postmodernism, post-Christian, you know, culturalism, relativism, things of that nature, you know, me and Robert could sit down and watch, you know, 3 hours of documentary on this stuff that my wife would.
That's pretty much what
My wife just
get
goes
in
to the
trouble.
bedroom.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do when he comes over.
Takes
We're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, get out.
So you see what I,
No.
yeah, because
Well,
you,
it's about learning.
No,
I mean,
it's fun, man.
you know, the saying goes that those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Every military man know that, but nobody else does.
Right.
Okay.
Imagine it's something you learn.
Okay.
Not from the military.
Not from the military, from history.
Yep.
Well, I've never met a military man that didn't understand that concept to some degree.
So think about this. Let's think about a few things. So and even look in this church, for instance. Okay, so this is something we're familiar with on a weekly basis. Pretty much all of us here are here twice a week at least. So most organizations, group, or companies, and even departments attract individuals of similar age. Now, we obviously have various ages at the church, but think of the whole. It's pretty. Would you think it's right around the similar, like, you know, you look at Pastor Tyner, Sister Tyner, then look across the crowd. I mean, we are of 40s to 60s.
Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint that if you had to do your own individual assessment. It's like, who do you think you attract? I'm like, I'm used to hanging around more of the older people, but I'm younger at heart, and I can relate to the younger people.
But you look at
it's hard to say.
You look at the kind of the whole core. I mean, this isn't real scientific or anything. It's just more philosophy thinking. But if you look at the whole core of who you surround yourself with, and who's
attracted,
draws in. Like I said, even if you look at this church, it's pretty much that 40 to 60 age range.
especially if you look at the biker service.
Yeah.
So
So you
No
can
one
see
under
that.
50.
old
And
school.
all,
Like I'd be young,
I
dude,
think,
yeah.
all relatively in the same financial
Well,
bracket.
that's the next thing we get to.
Yeah.
Background.
Yeah, because they can only afford a Harley, age 50 and up. They work children.
So, personal circumstances and experiences help shape someone's life. For example, ethnic, social origins, upbringing, education, work experience. Okay, you throw economy in there, all the same. We have a mass group of this church is kind of in that same socioeconomic situation for the most part. And attitude, the way people views things and the way they behave towards it. Again, for the most part, within this church, there is a culture here. So, like, one thing people talk about a lot is communication. Okay, this church, you guys have been in leadership after leadership after leadership meeting where we talk about communication. Why? Because there's a culture here, top to bottom, bottom to top, that lacks a systematic, sustainable way of communication.
Something just up top. I don't know what's wrong.
There's a lack of a process, a developed process of communication. And so we're able to do it for a couple of weeks, and then it starts falling apart. And then we'll try to skip it back up, and then it starts. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in leadership meetings for years and years and years, and communication is always talked about and always a problem. Now,
It's typically one of the first two things brought up in our leadership meetings.
well, and like, here's the thing. You and maybe one or two other people, you may have a good system between you, but when you think about how what you're doing, I'm talking about within the church, and how it spreads through the church, it's not there. Or if you look at how it comes from the top through the church, it's not there. We don't have in our staff, in our leadership, we don't have a systematic, sustainable process of communication.
We came up with the idea there.
So, but again, it goes back to you attract who you are. You attract who you are. That's why I won't say this, but that's why it is vital in leadership not to just put it on 70 and cruise. Sometimes you have to slow down. Sometimes you have to stop, regroup who you are, what you're doing, become purposeful about your approach and what you're doing, because you do and you will attract people that pick up your traits or that already have those traits and they're drawn to you because it's I will say spiritual. It's subconscious. It's the human soul, if you will. Not to try to get too deep into areas I don't even understand myself, but the human soul, when we bond, when we group up, when we huddle, I mean, let's face it, humans huddle. We got our poor people over here, we got our rich people over here, we got north side, we got south side, we got, and we're constantly, exactly, and we're constantly having to be the people. Look at the leaders who say, who strive for true unification. They have to be very purposeful about the steps they take because they understand they're tearing down these groups.
Yeah.
And so, go
But
ahead.
I think that a good leader or leadership team say like the core group, they all have their things in common are at the heart.
Yes.
It's what's in the heart that really matters.
Yes.
And that's what makes them bond, even though they might have their differences. Obviously, they're all going to have their weaknesses and their strengths, and
Right.
then a good leadership team is going to play off of that in
Right.
the right way.
Right.
So those who work well in one area, and that's their strength, that's where they're implemented, and then vice versa, and they all help each other in each other's weakness, and they draw. And obviously, a good leader is a good follower, but they're all going to have other followers, and that good leadership team then is they're going to work towards capturing the hearts of followers who are like-minded.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Does somebody know how to work the music thing? It's like buzzing and kind
Yeah,
of
sure, you can join us. No problem.
Frank does.
I don't know where he's at.
Frank went.
He may not know where.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just look at it real quick.
But
I don't know.
you are exactly right.
Yeah.
And that common magnetism is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a better way to put kind of where we were going, is that leader has to, what becomes that common bond is the deeper
Most important and
Most
essential
important
items.
items.
Yeah, for that organization.
Because they understand that everybody around the table should be. Now, like if you take a church, for instance, if we're all heads, okay, of departments in the church, like strategic, top level leadership within the body, there should be different ages around that table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There should be different personalities around that table. There should be different areas of strength around that table. And ultimately, it would be nice, and this is something you can't do on purpose. It has, I don't know, but different ethnicities around that table.
Well, and even a great organization would have various socioeconomical.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the
Yeah,
person who
exactly.
can identify
Exactly.
and aid the poor people.
Exactly.
But then somebody also there who can identify and capture the hearts of the rich.
Right,
Well,
exactly. Well, and what happens too, and what's great about that is, so I'm coming from my perspective, and so I'm throwing my view on the table. And, 7 out of the 10 points may be right on. Okay, but then that other person that says, whoa, wait a second, I understand what you're saying, but here, and here, this is why I would see a problem with that. Because of my background, my experience, who I operate around, who I live with, and then I would go, yeah, okay, I didn't see that. That's right.
And that also then relies on community.
I think the reason why
Exactly.
leadership fails today, though,
Exactly.
in today's, how it's changed, how it fails today is you got a lot of talkers and no work.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell my guys or whoever works for me, I can fire them up, but if they don't see me working,
Right,
they're not really wanting to follow me.
right,
But when they see me get out there and get it,
right,
they'll put what they heard, they'll be like, he's about it.
Right.
This guy's going to go, he's going to do something.
right,
Because they see you fire in anything, ministry.
right,
And see, a lot of the leadership means we talk about it, and then it fades, like you said, it trickles,
Right.
and then that's it. It don't get to the core where you get out there and you're on the street, and if you're going to do outreach, you're out on the street every day, and you're hitting it, and that's what you're doing. But
right.
that's the leadership. People want that instant gratification, and it don't happen with
Right.
today's leadership. With even the young people following, if they see a dude out there, just about what they said they was going to do, they're going, and even if they fade out, and you just keep going, there'll be people attaching themselves.
Oh yeah.
And that's how the ministry grows, because it's one day at a time. And today's leadership, though, it's about this. And you throw this over here, and you feel good when you leave, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
There's no work ethic.
There's
That's
no-
what I want to say.
right,
No
right,
work
right.
ethic. There's always just the leadership. That sounds like Trump, don't it? There's always just the leadership, and nobody underneath wanting to do the work.
VP right
It's
there.
like we can point this and point that, and leaders want to point, but they don't want to get out there and do it.
Right.
And maybe Maxwell said, you lead as you work. You know what I mean? You're leading as you say, listen to me and you go do this.
Yeah.
Not you get over here and do that and this
Right.
and that.
Right.
You follow me as I help, we'll do this together.
When you're always pointing back to the big picture. You're always pointing back to the big picture. You're always saying, you know, this is why you do this. This is why I do that. And we're all pointing back to the big picture. We're all pushing to the same goal.
I'm going to follow somebody that's going to get out there. We might just talk about it. I'm going to be like, I'm going to follow them because I'm behind them, whatever they do, because they're going to get out there and do it. I know they're not just going to be going and throwing stuff at you and not doing nothing. Not a pastor. He's working with me. He ain't just talking about it. He get out there and he'll do it. And I respect something. That's respect too. You respect somebody that ain't just doing the yapping and not doing anything about it.
What was it? I think it's in the chapter of law of magnetism in that book.
Yeah.
I have to go again. I was falling asleep reading. But there was a point, and it talked about that right there, where saying and do. No. It was a blog I read this morning.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Hold on.
And I didn't go there. I ain't went there yet.
Yes. You haven't
I won't.
even.
I don't think I can
You
talk
haven't even went into those people.
No, I won't be able to do that here. This is about leadership. I'm not going to get to that. But I do believe that.
Oh, here we go. It's called the saying and doing gap. At first, it seems as though the things you declare, espouse, and promise matter a lot. And they do, for a while. But in the end, we will judge you on what you do. When the gap between what you say and what you do gets big enough, people will stop listening.
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah. The compromises we make, the clients we take on, the things we do when we think no one is watching. This is how people measure us. It seems as though the amount of time it takes for the gap to catch up with marketers, leaders, humans is getting shorter and shorter. So the saying and doing. So you can say a lot, but you don't do a lot. And then you say a lot, but you don't do a lot. It makes that gap bigger and bigger. And then eventually, like you said, when the gap gets so big, you turn them off.
I think that's what happens to a lot of the leadership. They want, they throw good ideas and they're great. And
let's face
it'd be
it.
good if you could do it, but it trickles
How
down. Like
many?
he's talking about.
How many? I mean, you don't have to answer.
Yeah.
You don't have to say who, what, when, or where. But think about this, because I know it's true for you. I know it's true for me. As many leadership meetings as I've been in.
I've been in a bunch.
Okay. How many leadership meetings have you been in, even in this church, when certain people start talking? You just
You ain't doing nothing.
you wait for them to get done talking so we can move on, because you know
That's just talk.
they're just taking up time.
Yeah.
Because nothing's going to happen.
They ain't doing it.
There's no action point.
Well-
There's no follow through.
Kind of.
And a lot of people come up with good ideas you should do.
That's it.
Oh,
And you get mad. And you get mad. And you get
I
mad
think that
because you ain't doing
somebody
it.
needs to.
And you know what I say at the meetings? I'm like, that's your vision. You, no matter what happens, I told you that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And that's what God tells me. That's your vision. You should not lose that, and you should go forward.
Exactly.
See, a lot of people put their vision on people. It's like, I need help. No, you do that no matter what. Like,
You're not going to get help. You're not going to get help until you start doing it.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to get help until you start doing it.
Well, and that goes back to every good leader is also a good follower.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so to have the best, to get servants to follow you, you need to also
Did you say
serve.
servants?
To get servants to follow you, you also have to be
Slaves, man.
a servant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to set the example,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
set the example.
Yeah. Paul said, and I just, this is a very powerful scripture. Paul said, he said, follow me as I follow Christ.
And Christ came to serve.
Yeah.
He was the greatest leader of all, but he was also the greatest servant.
How did he say, when they were having these issues about how to be great, what did he tell them to do?
He was least in the kingdom shall be the greatest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He said, you got to serve. You got to be the least. The last shall be first, first shall be last. It's all about serving. What can I do? What can I do that makes things better for others? And if we all take that approach,
Yeah.
everything.
I don't think you ever quit serving. No matter if you're leading something or not, you're going to help somebody out.
No.
You just bring your crew over to help somebody out, and
That's the thing.
You just
The
keep-
very fact that you're leading something
Yeah.
is, if you're truly leading something, you are serving, because the whole
Yeah.
point to leading is serving.
And that's how you attract the people that you want to have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's in that chapter.
How'd you
Now, I
do
think that is in the
now,
chapter.
Now I am
I
thinking about
can
the
hear you in the
1%.
sanctuary.
Hey, I am getting on.
I am thinking about the 1% now. He said that again. Got the family back in it.
Yeah, the family. But you're exactly right, and that's I think that is in that chapter of the law of magnetism.
Is it?
That during that time, it was it the Peace Corps, or was it? I don't know if it was a Peace. Anyways, he was speaking to that heart, that servant's heart, that is, I will say, spiritually and
Inauguration that he said that after.
it's in the soul of who America is. It's in the soul. It's truly in the very depths of our DNA in America to serve, to be the light, the city on a hill.
Yeah.
That's how our nation was
Place of
birthed.
refuge.
A place of refuge. That's how our nation was birthed. You're weary,
Yeah.
come and find rest, find refuge, and now we've taken, and why, now we're getting on those people. No, but why we find ourselves in such chaos at the very depths of it all is because we've lost the purpose of who we are, or we've perverted the purpose.
Oh,
So today, okay, so back in our founding fathers, isn't it crazy how we get off on so many things? But our founding fathers, when we say we are a place of refuge, okay, it was in its purest, most perfect form of its truest meaning. Today, when we say a place of refuge, totally different meaning.
If you're a Muslim.
Yeah.
Everybody else, yeah. Or Mexico.
Totally different. Totally different.
Well-
so we've perverted our purpose.
think about what it says on the Statue of Liberty. I don't remember the whole thing, but it basically, bring me your. Now it's give me your.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. We used to operate like the Good Samaritan. You know, we found someone beaten half to death on the side of the road, needing help, no one to reach out to, nowhere else to go, and we took them in. And we said, we're going to help you get back on your feet. We're not going to control you. We're not going to put a bunch of rules on your attachments on you once you're on your feet. And we're not going to continue to pay for your way once you're on your feet.
Well,
But we'll get you on your feet.
for the most part, they would be appreciative and and allow themselves to be
Exactly. And see, again, now we can get back to the magnetism. Because you attract who you are. Okay? See, there was a day that you're exactly right. The person you would help on their feet wouldn't expect you to pay their entire way. They just want enough to get going. They'll do the work. They want that fulfilled feeling of accomplishment. They just needed help to get there.
Yeah, they appreciated a hand up.
It was reciprocated, right? Because you attract, okay? Today,
they want the hand out.
Because we've created it.
Yes.
We've created a system that says, I got you. I'll take care of you.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. I'll take care of you. You can't do it on your own. You know?
You need me.
You need me.
Here's some pills and a check.
And so now,
here's some check and some pills.
Right.
You're good to go.
And now we've attracted that. Now we've attracted that. So now people are demanding. They come into the ER. They come into the ER and act like it's a 5-star hotel.
You created the demand for it by opening all the beds up.
Exactly.
We've enabled them.
Yes. Yes. And
you
so
talked about this.
Yes.
The prison system that in that documentary I gave you about how they've literally Howdy, come on, join us. Get all this great information. How the prison system in a lot of ways has become a self-fulfilled prophecy. Because economically we created a demand for it.
Yes.
Particularly with the privatized prisons.
Yes.
You've got people who have money who can go buy a large chunk of land. You've got a lot of convicts, particularly when it comes to drug felonies. So they'll buy that land. We can stick a prison here, and they tell that community we can provide you 3,000 jobs and pay you $14 an hour, and they're like, yay.
Yeah. It is true. It is true.
So
and that's where
you got to fill the beds.
I tell you what's crazy. It's like what he was saying about old Bernie earlier. Sanders, I 100% disagree with his solutions, but many of his diagnosis of the problem is right on the money. And the other day he talked about that. He said as long as corporate, the way he termed it, of course I don't like saying it. I mean, there are greedy people. There are greedy corporate brand organizations, but they're not all greedy. But anyways, he said as long as corporate greed or people are able to grossly profit off the criminal justice system, there'll be no reform.
No.
But in what he's saying,
Backlash to the demand.
is he's right. Now, anything you do, there has to be some profit. Anything, I mean, or it won't sustain itself. However, back to what you were saying,
You've made this a
if there is true, solid criminal justice reformation, where people are treated as human and the true menaces to society are taken care of properly, but others are truly reformed or helped or given the hand up, there'll be a lot of people lose jobs because we won't have as many people locked up. It's like Chuck Colson. Do you remember when we watched that video? Chuck Colson said when he started in prison ministry, there was like 200-some thousand prisoners.
It's up above 2 million.
A few years later, 2 million.
But just like in anything in our economy, it just creates a shift.
It does, right?
You know, an industry shift.
It does.
What used to be done by hand is now done by computers. So those hands now have to build computers have to learn to program them, to be techs, and it just creates a shift.
It does. And it can do that that can be, if people would trust, because when you say that, you can take that positive or negative. So, but here's how I'm taking it. If people could trust and put their faith in God-given foundational principles when it comes to the economy. I don't even say, doesn't mean you have to be a Christian, but follow the principles set forth in the earth when God established economy. That shift, people can't be afraid of the shift, because once you shift, it creates more opportunity. The shift creates opportunity, but you can't be afraid of the shift.
Right.
So, here's the thing. Okay, take criminal justice reform. Well, we have to lock people up because this is $1 billion industry. Okay? Well, how about taking the approach, what would the world look like with productive citizens?
And our tax.
With more productive citizens
More tax
putting into the system